seen. And the most important disadvantage of the chain is the influence of the environment in which the chain drive operates on wear. So oil. We will have a look. We will talk a bit later about the oil. But what I wanted to say that the chain drive has their own advantages and disadvantages. And of course, there are also timing belts running in oil that reach replacement change intervals of sometimes up to 240 kilometers or something like that. For example, Ford EcoBoost engines. But timing chain drives are overall more wear resistant and often last for the entire life of the vehicle. And higher costs of the chain drives during engine production are paid for over the entire car life due to the wear resistant and lower service cost if the environment where the chains are working is in a proper and correct way. So there is one comment that just a second. Old timing chains were very reliable. Let's say that they were pretty much lifetime. That's considered about new. Let's say, for example, VA Group, there were lots of problems with chain reliability. Is there some very good reason for that? Yeah, I mean, there are some reasons for that, and when we have a look at different types of the chain, so maybe this will answer your question. As I said, that relatively long service time doesn't mean that in every single car, in every car manufacturer, the chain will run 2 million kilometers. Like, for example, it was maybe, I don't know, 30 years before, when we have a look on Mercedes chains, these double row chains. But if you see the construction of the chain, the weight, the space of this chain, of course, you cannot compare with the small silent chain in the modern cars. But there are some reasons for that, because the car manufacturers also would like to, at the modern life, they need to achieve some ecological standards like Euro 6 and so on, and they need to reduce weight. They need to reduce. They need to reduce. How to say? They need to reduce. In every single component something to achieve this achieve these standards, and that's why it's like a compromise between reliability and between the new ecological standards and fuel consumption and so on. Okay, let's go ahead. Now we will check the chain drive components, and here is the list of these components. It's of course a timing chain, but there are some components more in a chain drive. It is sprockets, it's tensioners, and the rails, tensional rail and a sliding rail. And we will begin with the chain, and in this picture you can see the construction of the basic structure, the basic construction of the normal roller chain. So you can see lots of small parts like the plates, like the pins, pushes, rollers, and you can imagine that the chain consists of lots of these small parts, and every single part is responsible for the quality of the whole product. So it's very important to produce the quality parts. The quality, all small parts should be on a high quality level in order to provide the high quality of the entire product. And now I will show you some small video from the production line, and then I will ask you, please have a look on it, and you need to tell me then what is going on here in this small movie. I would like to receive from you the answer. What is this process for? How do you think? What is happening here? Any guess? Or should I run video one more time? Tension test, measure, testing, and marking. No, not really tension test, but okay. What do you think tension test? So they test if the chain is okay or not. So if it is broken, then it's not good quality. If not, then it's okay. Actually, durability test. Actually, not really. The durability tests I can show you later on in another slide. So there are machines which are running for 200 hours and do this durability test. This is so-called lengthening process. So in this case, the chain is stretched at a force below its breaking strength. Do you understand what I mean? So it's like a press stretched, but so this process is performed with a 50% of the breaking load, and this guarantee a longer service life and a better first run. So, but why it's done? To see what happens when chain is stretched, stress check. Yeah, not really stress check. It should be done to avoid the elongation of the chain during first run on the car. And with the next slide, I will explain you what is happening here. So you can see here the large picture of a chain. So you can see here outer plate, inner plate, bush or so-called sleeve, and the pin. And pressing the sleeve, pressing the bush into the inner plate causes a deformation of the inner contour. And you can see that the contour of the bush, it's like a bone. And what does it mean? That if the chain sleeve is constricted, there is only an approximate point of a contact between the bush and the pin. So you can see only 2 points of contact between bush and the pin. And the contact area between bush and the pin is therefore very small at the beginning of the load, and the surface pressure is high, and it is not good. So if the surface pressure on these 2 points is very high, it means that at the very beginning, when the car is new, then the first run, the elongation will be very, very big. And to avoid this elongation, they do it, the manufacturers of the chain drive, they do it in a production line. And so this process is to avoid influence on the chain elongation in operation. So I hope that you understood what I mean, like to avoid this contact only in 2 points. After this process, there is no contact on 2 points. There is a contact on the whole area between bush and pin. And this is actually very important part of the production of the chain. So it's like breaking process. Yeah, it's only 50% of the force is given during this process. So it's not like to test if the chain is in a good, so if the chain is like good enough, but to do it to avoid elongation in the future in the car. Because if you just install the chain without this production process, like in the first hours of the running the car, the chain will be elongated a lot, and that is what we would like to avoid. Okay, let's go to different kind of types of the chain. So here you can see the 3 types, the bush chain, the roller chain, and tooth chain. And you can see the construction of each of these. For example, the difference between bush and roller chains, only that the roller chains have a small roller additionally. So the bush chain has only plates, pins, and the bush, but the roller chain has the roller, which is turning around the bush. And you can see that with the same pitch and braking force, sleeve chains, sleeve means bush chains, have a larger joint surface that's corresponding roller chains. So you can see the left one and the middle one. If you compare the surface of between bush and between pin is bigger. That's why the bush chain is more resistant than the roller chain. It's logically like the larger joint surface results in lower joint surface pressure and there's less wear in the joint. For this reason, sleeve chains are used in particular in the case of highly stressed camshafts drive and in fast-running diesel engines. So it's bush chain is pretty good if we're talking about the resistance. And a special design of the steel link chain is the toothed chain. Sometimes this chain is also called silent chains because of the good noise parameter. So there is less noise when this chain is running. In this case, the middle and inner lugs are formed in such a way that they can assume the force transmission between chain and sprockets, and in the case of the roller or sleeve chains, the sprockets is connected in the joint via the bolt sleeve or roller. And at the next slide, I would like to show you a bit new design chain, which is the combination between both, between the bush chain and the tooth chain. And the difference between this chain and what we saw, the silent chain, it's that additionally to the tooth chain, we have one bush here more. And why it's done? In the past, 2 main requirements were placed on timing chains. These consisted of reduction chain elongation to a minimum across the entire engine service life, while simultaneously achieving the greatest possibility strengths. In the recent years, These core requirements have been extended by the desire to reduce noise emissions and improve the chain dynamics. To meet these requirements, new chain generation has been developed that offers the same properties as standard chains, while simultaneously showing optimized acoustic and dynamic behaviors. It's coming back to the question to this question about the reliability of the old VAC chains and the new one. So all the time we have a new requirements, and these new requirements brings chain manufacturers or car manufacturers to some compromise. So either you would like to achieve big reliability and you don't care about the costs, or there are some new requirements, like as I said, to achieve some ecological norms or to achieve some norms, acoustic and dynamics characteristics. And that's why it's like all the time that compromise. And here is the table where we can compare different kind of chains. As I said before, for example, if we check the wear resistance, the Bosch chain is has more resistance like a roller chain, and the silent chain is less resistance, and so on and so on. And the costs are different. So there are like advantages and disadvantages of every single type. But which type should be installed depends on the car manufacturer. So it depends on construction of the engine and what kind of engine is that. It is a diesel one, gasoline one, it's the high power horses and or not high performance engine. It depends on the lots of parameters. But there are some new technologies, as for example, Triton technology. What is it about? This technology was developed by one of the main European chain manufacturers. It's a EVIS. Maybe you have heard this name, EVIS, and the EVIS has developed the technology of coating of the pins. So because this contact between pin and the bush, it's very critical, and this coating process called physical vapor deposition, PVD process, and it means this material is removed from a chrome cathode, like a chemical process under a high vacuum, and using a reaction gas, which is then deposited on the pin surface to form the desired chromium nitride layer. So they would like to achieve the highest hardness, and it's like a very thick, very tiny coating, like 1 to 2 mu, with a hardness of 1,800 to 2,200 HV, and it brings more. What we have at the end, the result. So we have wear reduction by at least 50%, and we have then the reduction of the friction. So approximately 20% less friction between pin and bush, and at the end we have less CO2 emissions. And on this graph you can see the compare of different kind of chains with different kind of pins, and you can see here that if we have a chain with the pins with the Triton, this chromium nitride layer, then we have less elongation during the time life, and at the end, it's as I said, less friction, less wear reduction. If we compare with the normal chains. How you can recognize in our portfolio if the chain is a 3-ton one or the chain is the standard one. First of all, if you have a look at our online catalog, partsfinder.bilsteingroup.com, so you can see the 3-ton logo on the chains which are with a 3-ton layer. But also you can compare it if you have a chain on your hands. So for example, the difference between the standard one and the 3-ton one, it's the 3-ton one on the pins here, you can see the small triangle. So it means that this chain is the 3-ton surface chain. And there are different car manufacturers which have different, different strategy. Some of them, for some, I can say so, some problematic engines, they switched from the standard chain to a 3-ton one. For example, BMW. There are some engines where the problems with the chains, and they switched the original number, BMW number, to a new one. And this new one, but they never write you in a BMW program that this chain is the 3-ton chain. They just put the new original number, and they recommend to use the new original number. But this new original number means a 3-ton. And you can also, maybe some of you who repair BMW, for example, you can have a look at these chains, BMW chains, and this is the same chains what we have also in the program with this triangle, and this means that it is 3-ton chains. In some cases, we offer in our portfolio for the one engine, for the same engine, 2 different types of chains. The one is the standard one is the 3-ton one. Why we do it? Because from the car manufacturers, they still offer a standard one, but we know that these engines are somehow problematic engines, and we would like to offer to the workshops some more reliable solution, which is 3-ton engines. That's why please be careful when you order the chain, which chain you order. Either you order the standard one or the 3-ton one, because there is also the price difference could be. So don't be don't be wonder that if you see 2 chains for the with different prices for the same engine, so the prices could be different also. And there is some comparison between swag chains and between competitor chains that in this is the bush chain, and so you can see here the small hole on the bushes. And this is not like we would like to make a hole. It has its reasons to have this hole. It's for. Do you know what's this hole for? Maybe some guess why on the some chains there are no holes, why on the same, lubricate. Yeah, exactly. This is correct. It's for lubrication. But the position of this bush should be placed by pressed in the inner plate in a correct way, and in order to avoid the contact between this hole and between the pin. So the bushes normally are wrapped from a cold rolled steel strip or similar material, and there is a place where both sides meet each other, and this should be pressed in the correct place. Otherwise, this is a contact with the pin and rapidly wear exists, like competitors do, and the production process is looking like this. That before this bush is installed to any inner plate, there is a machine which is recognize the sides, and this machine is turning around this bush in the correct position, and then it's going to be pressed. And some of competitors are not doing this process, and it's like a lottery. So sometimes you have the contact between this place with the pin, sometimes not. So it's like a small important process of the production. And we do, or our suppliers do. Alexei, I will answer your question later on. We do this durability test, as you mentioned before, that there is a special machine, and the test is running with a 750 Newton with a high 5,000 rotation per minute over 200 hours. And this test simulates the wear of a mileage like 200,000 kilometers. And there are on the graph shows the amount of chain elongation over this test over 200 hours period. And both K competitors that were analyzed are displaying significant elongation, and even more alarmingly are showing no leveling out effect. So you can see here that after like 50 hours, there is already elongation like 0.3, 0.4 percent. Okay, have Bilstein own production of the chains, or it's outsourced? No, we don't produce the chains by ourselves, and I will show you at the end of the presentation about this. But we do work with the OE manufacturers which are supplying to the car manufacturers. So we have in our range only products from OE manufacturers. But what we do in our production, we do produce the chain tensioners. Not the whole range, of course, but some of them. And even more, we supply one timing chain to the manufacturer of a timing chain drive, which supplies this chain drive to car manufacturers. So we can say that we are also somehow OE manufacturer to one of the European car brands. But okay, only with some few products, but nevertheless. It's very important to know that the manufacturers of the chain drives trust us to produce for them some very important parts like the tensioners. Okay, let's go ahead and we continue with the rails. So it's not a huge part, not maybe very important in the very beginning, as you can see, but there are different types of the rails. There are some sliding rails, there are some tensioning rails, and there are some different kind of materials which are used to produce these chain rails. And as you can see that if we are talking about tensional rails, so there are more steel materials or aluminum, not plastic ones. But all rails, either sliding or tensional rails, they use the surface place, the yellow one or the orange one, what you can see, the working surface, which is done in a from a plastic, and this part is a bit flexible. So in some kind of rails, you can take this part out of the plate, out of the out of the plate, and you can see that this part is a bit flexible. But what happens? What is important here? So that ensure use of the correct type of the oil, because if it is incorrect, and then the chain and above all the sliding rail will wear rapidly. So this part, if you don't change it over the time, this flexibility of this plastic is gone. So if you change only the chain and if you leave the sliding rails, so it could be the case that this plastic surface is not flexible anymore. It could be broken, and then you have even could be the case that the engine could be damaged. So important to know that must be changed when the chain is replaced. Okay, if we are talking about chain tensioners, so there are also different types. There are hydraulical one, there are mechanical one, and hydraulical there are two types. There are thread type and flange type, and hydraulical more used in the chain drives, and mechanical one are more used in the drives for water pumps, for example, or the oil pumps, and it's also like a small part, but very important. So what I wanted to say that it's not only the chain which is responsible for everything in a chain drive, but other components as well. And the oil pressure is extremely important for hydraulic tensioners. The tensioner and the sliding rail can tension the chain with up to 120 Newton meters. So again, coming back to the working area, to the oil. So in order to in order to receive this oil pressure, the oil should be also correct and in a good conditions. And if we that's normally the task of the chain tensioners is to tension the timing chain in all operation conditions. It's also important to know, not only in a running condition, but in all operation conditions, and it to intercept unwanted vibrations, even if a certain wear elongation of the timing chain has occurred due to the engine operation. So chain tensioning also important when the engine is not running, because if you start the engine, you don't want to wait till the oil pressure is there. So the chain should be tensioned in all operation conditions, like in a running condition and not in a running condition. And if we have a look inside, what happens inside of the chain, like it's a bit maybe probably complicated one where the different valves are installed in the tensioner, but it's good to know that for example, check valve regulates the oil volume to ensure that oil is supplied to the chain tensioner, and the preparation pretensioning is performed by a pressure spring located in the high pressure chamber. You can see this pressure spring inside, and also to minimize the chain tensioner response team is so-called filling element, reduce the free space in the tensioner. Any air that might collect in the chamber can escape through a vent hole on the front side of the piston and coming back again to oil. If the oil is old, so this small vent hole could be blocked, and then it could also be very dangerous for the whole drive. An additional pressure relief valve can be used to further reduce the load on the chain. And a variety of tensioners is providing with a locking system to limit the return stroke of the piston. And I will show you one of the examples of the chain tensioners, which is a bit complicated because it's not automatically works. This chain tensioner is for Opel One, is delivered in a so-called untensioned state. So it's in the box. When you put it out from the box, there is no tension at all. And when installing to the engine, the tensioner should be done some operation steps, like to activate the chain tensioners, apply pressure onto the timing chain and tensioner rail to relieve the tensioner piston after installing the timing chain. And you can see it on the picture, and you can also get this information on the so-called info, which is put it in a box with the timing chain tensioner. This will prevent the timing chain from jumping when the engine is running. So there could be two mistakes. So you install this tensioner and don't make the steps what I just mentioned before. This is the one mistake. And if you do this mistake, it could be the case that the timing chain will jump because there is no tension at all. And the second mistake, what you can do, before you install this tensioner, you will play with it. You will push on the stroke, and this tensioner will be activated before you install it. And if you activate it before and you install it after activation, so it means that there is much more tension that it should be, and the timing chain will be overloaded and will not the wear of the chain will be much faster than it should be. So let's go ahead to the sprockets. Also, the sprockets, they have different forms, types, and sometimes materials, many different designs, and depending on the installation space and application, different sprockets can be used in disc form or with one side or two sides hubs. And to be defined, material selection of the sprocket depends to a great extent on the timing chain drive rotation, the operation conditions, and the specific power transmission. And on the two sprockets, you can see here some rubber-coated materials. How do you think what for these materials, what for this rubber is? Noise, yeah, exactly. So the sprockets can have a rubber coating or padded rings, and it is meant to reduce vehicle emissions, noise, vibration, and harshness characteristic. Yeah, harmonics, you can see like this. And again, back to the oil. Oil can influence to the rubber, and there are some pictures, damaged pictures, where you can see that this rubber is completely destroyed, and this rubber is not longer on the sprocket, but this rubber is running in the engine, and which could also be the problem for the entire device. And if we are talking about the sprockets, it's good to know what polygon effect means. So you can see here that each sprocket is like a polygon. So each sprocket, it's not a circle, but it's polygon. And chain drives are subject to specific loads due to what is known as a polygon effect. The polygon effect refers to the periodic fluctuation of the chain speed between the limit values. So we don't see it, but there is some periodic fluctuation that sometimes the sprockets are running faster, then a bit slower, faster, slow, faster, slow, and it's because it is not it is not a circle. It's like a polygon, and each sprocket, as I said, is a polygon with a number of angles that corresponds to the number of T's. And the main source of noise, actually, noise emissions from timing chains during operation lies in the impact load of the chain as it enters the sprocket with the smallest number of T's, because the polygon effects make it difficult for the chain to enter the sprocket evenly here. So more T's we have, less polygon effect we have, but we cannot install in the engine the sprockets like this, 1 meter, for example, diameter, because we have no place. And it's again to the compromise that the manufacturers of the engines, but manufacturers of the car, they would like to reduce the weight. They would like to reduce the size of the engines, and that's why they would like also, they need to reduce the diameter of the sprockets, and it has the influence on the wear in the future. So once again, more T's we have, less wear we have, less polygon effect we have. And then normally, if we are talking about crankshaft sprockets, it's about 18, 19 T's on the each sprocket. So no. More could be, but less it's then critical. Okay, now we go to the SWAC, to the points diagnostic and repair. And then also, sometimes you might hear some comments that my chain is stretched out. So my chain is become bigger, become longer. And I just, with this slide, I would like to explain you where this elongation comes from. So it not comes from that the chain is stretched out. So there is a metal, there is no stretched. Okay, the tooth belt could be stretched, but not the rubber belt could be stretched, but not the chain. But nevertheless, we have the elongation. And why we do have this elongation? The elongation of a timing chain results in a shift in the timing and is due to wear in the chain joint. So there is a joint between a pin and a bush. There is a contact, and there is a wear between a pin and a bush. And the elongation of the timing chain occurs in the chain joint. As I said, the chain joint is the connection between the inner link and the outer link, and is made up of a sleeve and a pin. And due to mechanical dynamic load of the two components against each other, wear and thus material erosion occur. And normally, we say that if the chain elongation exceed 1%, the function of most chain drive can no longer be guaranteed. So it means if the chain is 1 meter long, 1% is 1 centimeter. So it's when it's 1 centimeter elongation, so it could be already the critical. And chains manufacturers say that depending on the chain drive type, the usual values for the chain elongation are between 0.5, 1.0% for mileages between 100 and 250,000 kilometers. Okay. of course, could be the case that the chain is already could be broken even after 1,500 kilometers, but it could be also the case that the chains are running more than 250,000 kilometers. It's like approximately values that chain manufacturer says. Just one more time, I just wanted to explain you that where this elongation comes from. It's come from these dynamic loads, and it comes from the material erosion, which is between pin and sleeve. Okay, and of course, as I said, so we have some exceptions, but normally there is no change in intervals for chains, which are recommended from a car manufacturers. And that's why it is the question, when does a timing chain and other components need to be replaced? Maybe you can give me some answers. If there is no recommendation from a car manufacturers, do we need to change the chain, and when? If yes, then when? Any comments from your side? Stretched. When we hear the noise. Okay, stretched by how you can recognize if it is stretched, if it is elongated or not. Okay, timing. It's a good points. Yeah, this is this question you just wrote. When the manufacturer says nothing normally, so there is no from Mercedes-Benz there is no recommendation about changing intervals. Cold start noise. Yeah, it's a very good point, the noise. As I said before, that one of the advantages of the chains is that the chain give you a signal that something wrong with me. And this is the noise. Example, resonance or rattling. And this is the first important signal that maybe you need to check the chain drive and maybe to change it. Some other points are, as one of you wrote, timing. Timing accuracy has deteriorated or engine has lost power. So you can, for example, car drivers can feel that there is a loss of power, or if you check it with a diagnostic tool that there is something wrong with the timing. Chain tenderness has reached its full extension. Yeah, some of you wrote that stretched. Some of them that you can measure if the chain is already elongated or not. And some of the car manufacturers are giving you the possibility, I will show you later on, to check if the chain tensioner is reached, it is full extension or not. And according to this value, you can say if the chains are elongated or not. And of course, if you make some other repairs, if the engine has already been dismantled, replacement possible with little efforts. So maybe not replacement, but at least you can have a look what's happening with the chain, what's happening with other components, how sliding rails look like. So if you make some other repairs in the engine. Okay, and sometimes invalid signal from camshaft and or crankshaft sensors. And this is the example how you can measure if the chain drive it's okay or not. This is the Mercedes-Benz 1.8 liter engine, so-called evolution engine, M271.820 or 860, as far as I can remember. And there is a tool from Mercedes-Benz which you can use. And how you can use it, you can this measuring tool has a graduated scale from 55 to 85. If all chain drive components are new, example, chain tensioners, chain guides, rails, and sprockets are new, are in a perfect condition, so the measuring chain tensioner should indicate a value of approximately 62, 63, like 62.5. So just imagine, you need to put out the normal tensioner and put in this tool inside, and then you read the scale. And if the measuring chain tensioner indicates a value above 75. You can see on the picture is a continuous line. So the parts of the chain drive are worn. So it's a signal you need to change the chain. In this case, examine the chain drive is more detailed and replace the appropriate components. And one very important thing, and attention here, that the measuring tool, the measuring chain tensioner must not remain in the engine after testing, of course. It's only a testing tool. And you need to replace the chain tensioner, a new one, because you are not allowed it to use the old chain tensioner which was installed in the car, because it's a special tensioner, and in order to put it again, you need to come back it to a transport position, to a zero position, and Mercedes-Benz doesn't allow it. So you need to check, you need to change the chain tensioner. The question, is there any rule of thumb for maximum mileage for change? Or, for example, 400 kilometers with good oil is not a problem? Yeah, it's good question and a hard question. As I said, there is no rule. So there is no rule, like because there is no recommendations from car manufacturers that they say please change the chain after 300,000 or something like that. So if we compare the modern engines with the old engine, as I said, more old engine is with the chains like this, with the double chains, with the heavy chains, and where the engines are not maybe so performed as before. It could be the case if you change the oil in a proper way all these 20 years or 30 years. It could be the case that this chain will serve you 1 million kilometers. But in a new modern engines where the chains are like my finger, and they are light, not very heavy, and the performance of the engines is very high. Of course, the wear resistance, it's not so high like it was like 30 years before. But still, there is no recommendation from car manufacturers that you need to change it after the certain period of time or certain kilometers. Okay, in this case, we create some technical bulletins like SWAG Pro Tip or Infos, what you can find in the PDF files in our catalogs, or you can find in boxes where the valuable information is, so you can check this valuable information before you install, not after you install. But in most cases, we check the information after we have a problems, not before. So I see now that we are already 1 hour left, but please give me some minutes, and we continue very fast, and we please stay online, and I need like maybe 10 or 15 minutes more. Okay, if we are talking about diagnostic and repair and failure courses, the failure courses for worn out time chains and other components, you see here the list. Okay, I go through them. It's like oil change intervals not observed, incorrect engine oil, mixing of different engine oils, condensation content too high, short distance operation, fuel content, short distance operation again is faulty, oil cooking, incorrect oil pressure, not all components and chain drive replaced during a repair. So you see that lots of words oil, 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 and that's why oil, it's a working area for the chain and a very important one. And it's the lots of factors which has an impact on the oil quality. And you can see here extreme temperature, vehicle mode of operation, the start-stop systems, the traffic, and different types of driving conditions, and so on and so on. Fuel quality is also not the last point, and the condition of the whole engine, and it's the whole different engine components has an influence on a quality of oil. And that's why it's very important to change the oil, not only to choose the proper oil, the proper specification for your car, but to change the oil with a proper changing interval. Of course, the car manufacturers says you, okay, there are some recommendations for the changing intervals of the oil. But in some countries, like, for example, Far East, like China and so on, there are other recommendations. Maybe you can see some examples that in Europe, for example, car manufacturers are recommends you to change the oil like 25,000 kilometers every 25,000. But in China, it could be the case that they recommend to change it only every 10,000. The same car, the same oil, and that's why you need to be careful with the climate in your region. You need to be careful with the quality of fuel, with the operation conditions, and to reduce these changing oil intervals, what car manufacturers recommends. Like if car manufacturers recommends doing like 25,000, probably I would guess in your countries it could be like 10 to 15,000. Okay, maybe give me some comments how often you change the oil, but I can imagine it's like between 10 and 15,000 kilometers. 10. Exactly, 10, 15,000. In your case, it would be good. For example, if we go to, as I said, Far East, so this it's like between 5 and 10,000. So yeah, in order to don't see these pictures like this, it's a very critical pictures, and in this case, of course, we don't talk here about not to change the timing chain, but you need to investigate here a bit more time to bring the car running back. And some pictures of damages and possible causes of failures. You can see, for example, camshaftings here broken. Why it happens? Because the chain tensioner not reset. It's a special tensioner. What should be reset? It's the old Mercedes-Benz engine, and the tensioner should be reset before installed. And if you don't do it, so there is a more tension, and even the camshaft could be broken, like you can see here on the picture. The small engine, Smart 42, 0.7 liter engine, and you can see here the camshaft sprocket broken. The next picture is also explain why it could happen, because on the crankshaft, you can see that the crankshaft sprocket and this teeth here, it's not in the middle. It's not symmetrical one, it's a symmetrical one. And you can install it in both ways, like this one way or this one. And if you install it not the correct way, so then the disalignment occur and it destroyed the whole chain timing chain drive. That's why we put the inforce in the box with the valuable information how to install it. Or in this case, as I said, some rails, plastic things, if they are not changed, if they are already aging process, so they are very, there is no flexibility anymore. The parts are very, could be destroyed very fast. That's why it's important not to change only the chain, but to have a look at another parts. Sometimes the problem of a engine damaged is because of the bad quality of the chains. So, for example, in this case, you see here some parts, some plates are broken, and according to the picture of this broken surface, the manufacturer, or under the microscope, you see that some parts are not in a good quality, and what can destroy the whole chain drive then. Or it could also happen that some car owners or some car mechanics can think, okay, there is no tension anymore, and I would like to bring to my chain more tension, and they just take out the spring and they make it longer to give the second life for the tensioner, and but it's not the correct way, what can destroy also the timing chain drive. And a few words about the quality, about production line. Just a sec. What happens? Why I cannot? Yeah. Coming back. Sorry. About the quality and about the production. As I said before, so we don't produce the chains by ourselves, but we do a very good cooperation with the most important OE suppliers, not only in Europe, but in Asia as well. So there are big four suppliers of the chain OE manufacturers, and we do cooperation with all of them. That's why we supply only timing chains from OE manufacturers. So we supply also the timing chains with this 3-ton coating. So what is very important to know, and we have our own production of important system parts such as chain tensioners. This is what we produced in Germany, and even if we don't produce the by ourselves, so we do make 100% final inspection of chain tensioners. So the question is, so in spec boxes comes same as from dealership? Yes, in most cases of the as you said, if we, for example, if you take a BMW chain or Mercedes chain, and 99% will be the same chain as in a Mercedes-Benz box or in a BMW box. It could be another case that, for example, for Volkswagen is using the supplier ABC. But we are using another supplier which are not supplying the chain to Volkswagen for this engine, but this another supplier is also a supplier. And in this case, it could be, as I said, that it could be another chain, but this chain is also from OE manufacturer, which is also supplying other car manufacturers. I hope it's clear what I'm explaining. And probably not all of you knows, but we do a guarantee, so-called 3 years manufacturer guarantee, not only for the chain drives, not only for the chains itself, but for the all range we do in our portfolio, we have in our portfolio. So if you have some problems with our products, so don't hesitate, first of all, to contact our original distribution where you bought these products. But if you have even some problems with where you bought these SWAC products, there is a possibility to contact us directly. So you can use the contact form on the SWAC web page where you can contact the local office, which we have in Lithuania, and you will be contacted. So your answer or your comment will be not ignored. You can test it, and you will get the answer. Some more slides, like 2 slides more, and then we're done. Just wanted to say you that SWAC offers over 370 timing chains and over 250 timing chain kits for over 40 vehicle brands, and thus SWAC cover 97% of all relevant European and Asian passenger cars applications. And we extend the range of our products all the time, and you can find everything in our online catalog, which calls Parts Finder, and you can see here the link partsfinder.bilsteingroup.com. So that's it. This is the end of the presentation, the end of the webinar, and sorry for not being in time. So we are 15 minutes more than planned, but I hope it was valuable information for you. If you still have some questions, please put it on a chat. If not, I was very happy to see you as a participants. We are lots of participants today, and we will invite you to the different webinars this year for the future. So yeah, stay in touch. And as I said, I can stay here some minutes more. If you have some questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I hope you have my email address also when you have the email after the registration, so you can contact me also directly. Yeah, for all of you, very thanks again, and have a nice day. Good luck.